Hello, friends and investigators of James Jesse Strang, the prophet successor to Joseph Smith. This is a really quick video today. It's a follow-up to my first two videos. The first that was a response to FAIRMormon, and the second was a response individually to Daniel C. Peterson and their anti-Mormon attacks on James Strang, and how they have a completely different set of rules and logic that they use when comparing Joseph and James, and how they actually use the weak arguments leveled against Joseph Smith to attack James Strang, and in one case at least used the very same source who is claiming that Joseph's witnesses denied, also claiming that Strang's witnesses denied, and they're citing that as evidence that Strang's witnesses denied, and not mentioning that the same uncredible person said the same thing about Joseph. Now, CES Letter's not being perfect here, because they're attacking the very notion of the witnesses by saying, where's a signed document? And I want to start by telling you, we don't need any signed documents from these witnesses. They were living witnesses, and everybody in their generation knew that they were living witnesses. And some of these very people joined James Jesse Strang's church after Joseph Smith died, and clearly they knew. They lived, they read the Book of Mormon. If they had anything to object to what was printed, we would have some source. So bottom line, CES Letter, you should take that whole section down. Don't even waste people's time with that garbage, because unless you have a source that these people who lived for years reading their own witnesses in the Book of Mormon, unless you have a source that says that they were specifically denying it. And I don't mean later on telling it a little different or something like that, or leaving a detail out or adding another detail that wasn't there. We know that this is three people's witnesses with one spokesperson, who is Oliver Cowdery. Okay? And that's totally fine. And you know what? It's okay that Oliver Cowdery signs their names. Because why? Because that was standard in that day. Stop being dishonest and pretending. Like I said before, this is not modern times. People signed other people's names all the time with their approval, and that signature is valid. That's why we say that whoever wrote Joseph Smith's signature at the bottom of the letter of appointment had the right to do so, because he's standing right there. And that was common. And Joseph frequently let people sign his name. His witnesses let Oliver Cowdery write their names, and their testimony stands. Now, here they're citing some of the same things, where Daniel C. Peterson uses a source, doesn't give the source, and when he does, the source is an uncredible testimony that comes decades later and requires us to believe that, since it's all hearsay, requires us to believe that this individual who denied their testimony told no one else, no family, no friends, no journal entries, no letter to a friend, no letter to the paper, nothing. No second person saying, oh yeah, that's true. I mean, maybe if you had multiple people saying the same thing, like a room full of people, and 5 of them said that he said that, then that would be substantial in lieu of having an actual document or journal entry, right? They've got none of that. The bottom line is the witnesses of James Strang took their witness testimony to the grave. It doesn't matter what they thought about the church, or whether James fell, or whatever, but they held those plates. Those plates existed. The same goes for the Book of Mormon witnesses. They were very familiar with what was written in the Book of Mormon, and if they did not deny it, it stands. This is just like Joseph Smith's wife, Emma Smith. Now, James Strang, in his pamphlets, he says that Emma recalls Joseph taking Hiram, Willard Richards, and John P. Green into the room to write the letter to Strang, and she remembers them talking about it, coming out with a letter, it getting mailed, and it's in his pamphlets. Everybody gets it. Strang dies, and decades later, Emma's alive, and her son's alive, and all these people are alive. And some people say, well, where's the signed document that she remembers that? Where's the signed document that says she disputed it? Because it's impossible with how this was distributed for her not to know how her name's being used. And let me ask you, what would you do? Even if you liked the person, even if you liked me a lot, if I started going around putting a pamphlet with your name on it saying that you said something you didn't say, you'd say, hold up. Okay? So that argument is ridiculous. We got a different time in the 19th century when people's reputation meant something. Okay? People would say something, but you wouldn't say something that wasn't true. Okay? James wouldn't do that. Okay? Not especially, first of all, you have no evidence that he ever told a lie. Secondly, you have every evidence that he is a very intelligent person who's dealing with an emotional community of people with highly sensitive and they're willing to dispute everything. Look at how they attacked the letter of appointment. They came up with all kinds of things. People came up with stories where two different people came up with multiple stories about the same event to either explain it or, somebody said that they actually wrote the letter of appointment themselves, but never bothered to tell anybody for decades. So we know that these stories are not credible. The person who is credible is James Strang, because we're not catching him in a lie. So, and Emma Smith, why would she let James Strang use her name like that? Especially when they're trying to deny polygamy and not have anything to do with polygamy and don't join James's church, and yet Wingfield Watson and other Strangites are still bombarding them and even attacking the RLDS church with these very pamphlets. If they didn't speak up and say something about it, they had to know about it. You'd have to be just living in fantasy land to think that they don't know what it says in the Diamond and in the revelations of James Strang and in the Voree Herald and all of the claims. So impossible that they don't know how Emma's name's being used and the story attached to it. She said it to Strang, he printed it, and even if she didn't like it being used that way because she must have changed her mind or no longer thought that Strang was a prophet, she can't retract having told him that, right? That would make her a liar, and she's not going to be a liar. So that's how we can have confidence that that story is true. And we can also have confidence that there's a lot of people out there just willing to make up stories just to get you to not take the prophet seriously. It's all meant to undercut his credibility so that you will not investigate for yourself, so that you will not be a Latter-day Saint, so that you will not go to the Book of Mormon and read the commandments. It says we are supposed to study it out in our minds and in our hearts. D&C 18, D&C 19, and Moroni 10. Study it out. We don't learn these things from mankind. We don't hear a rumor and believe it. If you want, this is the realm of faith, and Mormonism has always asked you to obtain your own witness. And if you can't apply the commandments that are found in the Doctrine and Covenants and the Book of Mormon, and go to God and get a witness, yes or no, then what are we even doing? What are we even talking about? Okay, so this is not to convince anti-Mormons like whoever wrote the CES letter. No, but this is to show the double standard, the duplicity, the just not really putting faith in their own religion for any Latter-day Saints who trust those people and trust hearsay, but can't go to God and obtain a witness. So basically, it's back to you. Do you have a testimony in Joseph Smith as a prophet? Do you have a testimony? And if you do, that testimony is not based on witnesses. It's based on your witness. And if you seek anything else when it comes to evaluating James Strang, well, then you have a superstition. Then you don't have real faith. So I challenge you, have real faith and demand evidence, demand something material, not hearsay. And make sure that you don't let people talk about James or anybody else, in a way that's derogatory if they don't have some kind of proof. Because doubt is not enough. And if you're one of these people out there talking, stop trying to manipulate people. Stop trying to influence them, get them to shut out sources and not investigate for themselves. Stop trying to do other people's thinking for them. You know what? I'm telling everybody, you should read Sidney Rigdon's writings. You should read Martin Harris. You should read all of these people. Anybody who started a church, just go investigate them. Okay? But don't believe something negative about them because it's convenient to your tradition. That's not right. It's not a Latter-day Saint thing to do. It's not in spirit of Joseph Smith. So, apply the same rules. Be fair and listen to God, because that's what we're really here to do. We're here to listen to God, okay? I'm just trying to level the playing field because these people are telling bald-faced lies and half-truths and distortions and using fatally flawed argumentation and logic, and I'm just trying to level the playing field so that you can get back to listening to God and what He says in the Scriptures. So do that. God be with you. Take care.